You've reminded me of this way to approach upper body training because I recently switched to upper lower split with a small modification. I just throw biceps and triceps on my leg days, and I have a day of rest in between every workout, so it's no problem.
Good then. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no back-to-back workouts. Everything's getting hit every other day. Recovery wise is sweet spot for me. But the alternating push and pulls, I was big on let me start with like an isolation first and then go into the compound for certain exercises. Not always, not every workout, but that was a thing for me for a while. And maybe it's because I was very intrigued by the high intensity training aspect of things like the Arthur Jones. You know, I was watching your videos. I remember Matt August was doing that. I remember Nunez was doing that with the upper lower, but it was your video that reminded me back to, wait, hold on, man. You've kind of stalled a little bit with your performance. Let's go back to the basics here, especially if I'm using mostly dumbbells. Why am I doing 2 dumbbell pressing exercises back to back?
Yeah, exactly.
For 3. Like that is so redundant, and lifts were not going up. And then I'm thinking to myself, what if I just slide the pull down between, the roll between, and performance it's steadily going up again, which makes me wonder how much progress I was missing out on for the last little bit. But order does matter.
I would say that's the best way to run the upper lower. Like I eventually learned that with time.
Right.
The only thing is you got to psychologically enjoy it. So it's funny you mention this because when I would post my regular upper body workouts, guys would say, Alex, why the heck are you doing all the presses, then the pulls right after? Just split it up. And I'd be like, but it keeps me in that groove. And because the back training was just an accessory in the sense that like the primary goal was the pressing muscles, I didn't care so much if that aspect wasn't going to do as well. Once I started splitting it up, push, pull, there really is a big performance difference. And specifically for the movements that are highly fatiguing or require more coordination or anything that's axial loaded, if you do bench press and then overhead press right after, it's hard when you're standing up with that weight in your hands. If you do a back movement in between, even though you would think that would hurt the overhead press because now you have some upper back involvement, it actually makes you stronger. So for the overly brutal stuff, like if you know that you got 2 back-to-back presses that are going to kill you, that 1 pull in between, man, I guess it's like having a super long rest interval, because if you're resting 3 minutes between sets and you do 3 sets, for example, well, that's a minimum of 9 minutes between your first push and your second push. And maybe that's what you needed to get those motor units back to where they should be, right?
I'm not supersetting anything, by the way, for those listening who may not be clear on this. This is just the exercise order. So I'll do my 2 sets, then I'll go into my presses, then I'll go into my pull downs, 2 sets, then I'll go back to my presses. Because again, I really do think that exercise selection is also an influence on this. Like if you go from like a dumbbell press to like a fly or like a machine press, it's not going to have such an effect. But if you're doing these heavy compound lifts with dumbbells and barbells, like old school, that order is superior. I'm convinced.
And one more thing about the order, bro.
Yeah.
Because you just pointed this out, for the movements that are easy, now you can superset them and it won't affect the following list of movements. Let's say your first 2 compounds were very strenuous. Then it's cool that you got that little break in between by doing push-pull. But let's say the final compounds are a very easy variation, then you might as well just superset them because you have the energy and it's not going to take much out of you. Whereas if you just did all the presses followed by the pulls, well, now you got to wait because you can't superset it yet. Because if you do, it's going to affect the other compound that is more strenuous. When we go down to the isolations, well, now it supersets perfectly. At least it's going to affect the end of your workout. Therefore, it's going to take less time. It's not going to compromise the intensity or anything like that. So all around, it's just more efficient if it doesn't affect your flow. Like Matt Wenning does this extensive warm-up where he will do rows before his benching. And if you think about it, it makes sense because in the bench, you are supposed to stay tight and kind of roll the body or chest. Even if you're raw, quote unquote, doesn't matter. Like if those muscles back there are warmed up, it's just going to groove the entire press in a better way. And also, like if you do like a full body exercise and then you move on to any press or pull right after, it's still going to feel better than if you didn't do it. Like on the muscles. Like actually, if you do deadlifts before pull-ups, those pull-ups, like you can jump into a heavy weight right off the bat. The nervous system is prime. Everything is warm. You still got to warm up though. And it's not opposing muscles. It makes the next exercise just feel better. Look,
you want to see performance go up again? Your order has to make sense now, bro. Like you can't be doing these, like for me specifically, like again, exercise specific, what I have available. Pull day's not as bad actually, but push day specifically, no chance, bro. Then it's like one exercise that's productive, you know? I can't be doing push downs right after doing a whole bunch of pressing because then I started getting some elbow problems. So I'm like, hey, this is not productive now.
Wow.
So that's a unique case, but to be fair.
It depends where you're at, and also how high your volume is, and how good your work capacity is, and what the numbers are being lifted.
A
'Cause
lot of
sometimes
factors.
you'll just need more rest just off what you lifted, and that's why when you have the break in between, even if you're going to lift heavier, the fact is you got the 9 minutes of rest or whatever. So honestly, I think it just goes back to motivating recruitment. And for guys who train with lower rest intervals, this is even better, because now you're saving time, but you still get enough in between the strenuous movements that you kind of got the benefits of long rest.
Yeah, there's definite benefits for sure. And like you said, there's a lot of factors that play a role. Training age plays a role. Like, I'm not saying having full blown push days is not productive by any means, like absolutely not. But I'm just saying, for me, my journey now, since we were talking about it, and maybe there's someone in, listening that can relate to this, give it a shot if you find that your performance is stalling and you've kind of strayed away from these old school principles in a way too. Because if you look at some of the silver era, and I want to say silver era more so, maybe bronze, they were doing full body, and
I was just gonna say that, man.
Yeah, and so upper lower was like, those were the two splits for the most part.
And if you look at the template, okay, so I would say full body came first, the upper lower came after, right?
Yeah.
Notice how with a full body system, it is push pull. It's push pull legs all in the same workout.
Yeah.
So you'll do a squat, then a bench press, then a deadlift, then overhead press, then a row. Oh, I see a pattern here in terms of opposing movement patterns. And then when you switch it to the upper lower, it's the same thing, just without the legs. So it's always been like that. So that's a little pearl of wisdom right there.
Yeah,
Take from the old school greats. Whenever I listen to them, I'm never wronged.
Facts, man. They had it right from the start.
Surely, if I get my chin up strong enough, I have to have this arm measurement, right? It just never played out. My lats would get wider and wider, and then the arms would not. The bench press, okay, I'll get my close grip bench up. Got it to 365, then 380. They still weren't 17 inches. So I'm like, okay, this isn't working. So it's about